What's going on, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Stop the Count podcast. I want to start off by saying don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and follow me on Twitter at StopTheCount10. Also, ask me some questions on Twitter about anything. I just want to interact more with you guys. Today, we'll get into some news that was announced this past week and also talk about the fights that happened this past weekend. First, we'll get into some news, starting with some UFC news. The first being the fight between Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush has been pushed back as Charles has suffered an injury. Now, it also looks as if this fight will be happening on June 10th as the co-main for UFC 289. Now, staying on the topic of UFC 288, Jonathan Pierce has also had to pull out of his fight against Bryce Mitchell due to an injury. Now, the UFC is going to match up Bryce Mitchell with Movsar Evlov. Honestly, that's a very, very good fight. But what do you guys think about the card now? It was already a really thin card, and now it's just, I feel like as if it's just getting worse. The only fights I'll be interested in watching besides the main event is Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar and the return of Kron Gracie. Now, it's also being said that the UFC will be looking to add another fight on the card, possibly a welterweight eliminator fight between Gilbert Burns and somebody else. Now, also a pullout for the UFC Fight Night 1 week away has occurred as Renato Moicano has had to pull out of his main event fight against Arman Tsarukyan. The UFC is also looking for a replacement for this fight, and hopefully they are able to get one. Now, talking about UFC 290 on July 8th, it's official. Brandon Moreno will be fighting Alexandre Pantoja for the third time. This will be the main event. It's also being reported that Davison Figueiredo will be fighting Manel Kape. Also, regarding to some news from the UFC 287 card, Alex Pereira has stated that he will be moving up a weight class to 205. Now for some boxing news. McWilliams Arroyo has had to pull out of his fight against Julio Cesar Martinez on May the 6th. I was really looking forward to this fight, but we'll just have to see what happens next for Martinez. Another pullout also happened for the Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia undercard, as David Morrell will have a new opponent in Yamaguchi Falcao, as his previous opponent Senna Agbeko has also had to pull out due to injury. Now, talking about the top rank card. Early Friday morning, there was speculation that christinalinardatou would not be allowed to fight against Mikaelamayer, as the British Athletic Boxing Commission will not approve Christina as she has a permanent lens in her eye. Now, she has fought her whole career with this lens and became world champion twice. She was licensed by these same people in 2019 to fight Katie Taylor. What do you guys think about this? Top Rank was able to find Michaela an opponent in lucywildheart. Now, getting into the undercard, first talking about samnoakes, he was able to pull out a second round stoppage as he walks out of the ring, remaining perfect, 11-0 with 11 knockouts. Now, talking about the co-main event, the previously mentioned Lucy Wildheart versus Mikaelamayer. Lucy did come into the fight with a record of 10 wins, 1 loss, with 4 knockouts. Now, getting into the fight, it was a really good fight between the two, in my opinion, as Lucy was no easy fight for Michaela. As Michaela was getting hit a lot, but she was still able to outbox Lucy. Michaela really worked the body very well and was able to pull out a unanimous decision victory. Now, for the main event, joejoyce versus Zhileizhang. To be clear and to the point, Zhang was completely dominant from the start. There was some moments where Joyce looked good, but I believe Zhang landed the better, harder shots each round. And at around the second or third round is where you could see Joyce's eye was really swelling up and really looking bad. And during the 6th round, the fight was stopped because of it. A good stoppage, in my opinion. Now, it was being reported that the scorecards were really close, and even one of the judges had Joe up. And honestly, I just think that's crazy. I thought Joe maybe won one round, if anything. Now, what do you guys think is next for Zhang? Maybe a Tyson Fury fight. That would be a very, very good fight. Now we'll be getting into the PFL card that happened on Friday. I'll start off by mentioning a fight I didn't talk about in my last video, that being Zach Jusola versus Brandon Jenkins. They put on a very good fight. It was a great way to open up the card. It was a very close fight, but Zach Jusola was able to pull out the victory by decision. Also, Magomedumalatov versus Delano Taylor ended in a first round stoppage for Magomed with a very powerful right hand hurting Taylor. and causing the ref to stop the fight. Now, talking about Shane Mitchell versus Nayiblopez, it was another decent fight. There was an illegal knee landed by Lopez, resulting in a point deduction in the first round. But other than that, the fight was pretty much dominated by Lopez on the ground, leading to him winning by unanimous decision. The next fight I'll get into is between Raush Manfino versus Alexander Martinez. It was a very good, hard-fought fight for both fighters. A very close fight, but in the end, it was Manfino winning by decision. As for the oliveraubinmercier versus Shaneburgos fight, it was a very good performance for Olivier as he was able to dominate Shane on the ground and win another decision victory. The main event for the card was sadibousy versus jarrahalsilawi. Sai was pretty much dominant, winning the fight by a second round knockout, getting the 5 points. As for the standings, all the lightweights who won are tied at 3 points. And the welterweights, there are 3 tied for the first place with 6 points, and Sadibousy with 5 points in fourth place. Nayiblopez sits outside of the playoffs with 3 points. Finally, talking about the UFC, it was a good undercard. The first decision of the fight night was, in my opinion, horrible. There's no way Lucy Padilla lost that fight. The only round I saw as close was the third round. Other than that, there were some really good fights. For example, the very next fight was Aaron Phillips versus Gaston Bolaños. It was a very good, tough fight for both, with Bolaños edging out a decision victory. And the fight I did mention in my last video was Landovanata versus danielzellhuber. It was a good fight between the two. Daniel was able to pull out the decision victory, and honestly, it was a very entertaining fight. Now, there was more controversy in the Jillian Robertson versus Piera Rodriguez fight, as some people think Piera tapped, including the ref, but some people don't think she tapped. Me, personally, I think she tapped. Now, talking about the brandonroyval versus matheusnicolau fight. This is a fight that ended in the very first round as Brandon was able to knock out Matheus. A great statement for Brandon, as he has said he wants the winner of Moreno versus Pantoja, or even to be the backup fighter. It blows my mind that this fight was on the prelims. This is probably one of the best fight nights I've seen recently. So many good fights happened. It left you on the edge of your seat the whole time. For example, there was Pedro Munoz versus Chris Gutierrez. That was another very, very good fight. And also, Edson Barbosa was able to knock out Billy Quarantillo with an amazing knee. Now, for the main event, Max Holloway versus Arnoldallen. The first round was a very good round for both fighters. They both landed really good shots on each other, but I would have given that round to Max as he was able to be the more active fighter. The second round was another good round for both of them. Arnold started off good, landing harder shots and cleaner shots than Max, but the second half of the round was Max really being able to work the body very well. Now, I would give that round to Arnold, but it was very close. The third was where the damage started to really show on both fighters, as Arnold's face really started to get red and a cut opened up over Max's eye. As for what happened, Max really controlled the round, landing the cleaner shots, so I believe Max was able to win that round. As for the fourth, I believe Max won that round, but it was a very, very close round. Now, the fifth round came, and it was a round where Arnold came out to win. The most entertaining round of the fight, an incredible round between the two. Max was able to drop Arnold in literally the last second of the round. I would still give that round to Arnold due to what he did leading up to the end, but it was an incredible fight and an incredible way to end the fight night. Now, it ended with Max Holloway winning by unanimous decision. What a fight and what a fight night. What do you guys think about this fight night? Who do you guys want to see Max fight next, and who should Arnold fight now too? Now we'll talk about the Chivas versus León game. It was like if the same problems were going to plague Chivas, as their defense looked as if it wasn't going to be able to hold up in the beginning. There was a goal for León called back for offsides, but it was a very, very close call. But there was also a penalty that should have been called for Chivas from a handball for one of the León defenders that wasn't called. So there shouldn't really be any crying for both sides about it. If someone does want to cry about something, they should cry about how the VAR sucks in Mexico. The first half was not the best for Chivas, as they were really getting dominated in the midfield. Now, as the second came, it was a better start for Chivas as it looked promising, and then came the subs. This is probably the thing that Pauno is most criticized about. But let me tell you, literally 1 minute after coming on, Pavel Perez is able to score after an amazing pass from Alexis Vega, putting Chivas up 1-0. That wasn't the end of it, as about 15 minutes later, another perfect pass from Alexis sets also Gonzalez free, and he is able to put away the game with a beautiful finish. This victory puts Chivas into the top four and into immediate qualification to the Liguilla, 2 points clear of León, a masterclass game from Alexis Vega. This game also sets it for Chivas to be able to control their own destiny, to see if they're able to stay in the top four. Now that's it for this episode. See you guys later on this week as we talk about the upcoming MMA and boxing fights. Of course, the boxing fight everyone has been waiting for, Tank versus Ryan. See you then.